Welcome to the Kwazzie Show. This is Mazza, and today me and my fellow co-host Mary will be defining loneliness, offering you great solutions and much more today. Stay tuned. And before the break, we were going to address everything about loneliness, not only giving you the solutions today, as Mary and I are both qualified coaches, and she's got counselling stuff and I've got counselling stuff behind us. And I think that's the benefit of the show today. We're going to be offering you solutions to loneliness. But first we have to define it, Mary. Yeah. I forgot my own name. I'll call myself Mazza.
So let's start with the very obvious question. What is loneliness?
Yeah, so there's a great version of dissecting it about loneliness versus aloneness.
Yes, and you had a lovely phrase you used earlier on, Mary Ann.
Yeah, so loneliness is all about separation, disconnection. I'm by myself, separate from self, and all one. What did I say?
All oneness.
Yeah, so all oneness is aloneness. So it's all oneness. So you're at one with something. So a great exercise I get people to do when they say they're lonely. They always say they're outside of themselves in some way. So they're, disconnected, they're beside themselves. So I always say, imagine what it would be like if you were with yourself.
Oh, with yourself.
Yeah.
And how do you achieve that? How do you achieve being with yourself?
Well, you've got to start a daily practice. So if we're all practicing, reaching for relief, having a drink, a cigarette, taking prescription drugs or whatever the thing is.
That's how we avoid loneliness.
Yeah. Well, actually, we're trying to soothe ourselves, Mary.
Right.
So
finding comfort.
Yeah. And so I remember when I gave up smoking, I noticed that all of a sudden I would cry a lot. I would have major feelings come up. And I said to a fellow friend who's a smoker, I said, do you know what? You can't feel. Because cigarettes stuff down emotion, right? So I remember a guy who was explaining addiction, Michael Brown, and he was an expert in this field. He's South African, and he turned around and said, there's four states that you can recognise when it's about loneliness. So a drinker drinks to sedate.
Right.
A smoker smokes to control. Somebody who, the worst apparently are potheads, right? People that smoke pot. And the person said, why is that? And he said, just take someone's stash away and you'll know all about it. So everybody reaches for comfort eating, chocolate cake, the lollies, the grapes, the whatever your go-to thing is, because we're trying to comfort ourselves. We're trying to soothe ourselves from all this bloody suffering as a human being, right? And in that peace, we can feel really lonely. We think we're the only ones in the world that are feeling this separation. But guess what, Mary?
What's that, Mary Ann?
Everybody feels the same way.
We're all feeling lonely?
And just because if everyone's that honest. Like, if you look at you, you've just had the empty nest syndrome.
I've just said goodbye and sent my youngest daughter overseas for 5 months. And that's a real separation, it's a physical feeling. You feel it physically when they depart, and you have a reaction to that with tears. So you could look at it, start to feel lonely.
Yes. So here's the thing. If we define loneliness, you're saying that separation, that disconnection from a source of something that's making you feel connected, wanted, needed, whole, complete. I mean, that
feeling of wholeness. So obviously, as a mother, you get to have your children around you for so many years, and then when you go through that empty nest transition, they separate from you, and it's that physical difference, and you feel a part of you has gone.
Yeah, so here's the thing that the audience needs to know. The diversity you and I can offer is, I don't have kids. I've never had kids.
So your experience of loneliness, I might have put mine off.
I got more experience. Right. But it's all self-fulfilling, okay? So hence I've dedicated my life to self-inquiry, personal and professional development to help others, right, with their personal growth.
So you've been in service to others
Yes.
as a way of fulfilling or...
Well, it's what inspires me.
Right.
So I notice a lot of parents live through their children
vicariously.
as their source of happiness, as their source of entertainment, as their source of social interaction, the whole bit.
Absolutely. No, we'd love to hide behind our children. It's much more interesting.
Yeah. So when the child leaves or the children leave, you've got this, generally a woman's going through menopause about that stage, their marriage is on the rocks, things are breaking up. It's the biggest category of divorce, 45 to 50. So what's the man doing? You know, we're banging on about women, but men feel equally as lonely.
Well, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, and a lot of people isolate
you
themselves.
Just threw that one into the... I forgot about the men.
Yeah, we'll never forget it. I feel sorry for them, you know, like it's always about the woman, but women can easily reach for relief. It's plastered all over social media that if you're not a wine drinker, you're not normal.
Right, which brings us to that second subject that I was talking about before, is that increase in drinking with women between the age of 40 and 59.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, we're all reaching for, never forget, you know, no judgment. We're just seeking comfort. We want to be soothed. We want to feel okay. We don't want to feel. So, like, I could sit there and say to somebody, so I said it to a guy the other night, he just felt like I'd shot an arrow through his heart. I said, so how are you feeling right now? And he was just blown away.
What if he'd responded with, I'm feeling lonely?
Yeah, well, he didn't, though. But clearly he was, as he was rolling a cigarette. And then once he said to me, no one's ever asked me that before. And I said, no. We go round and we say, how are you? G'day, how's it going? Yeah, good, mate.
Yeah.
And it's just bullshit, right?
Very, very surface level.
Yeah, everyone's pretending.
So can I bring you back, Marianne, to that first question we just posed, with what is loneliness?
Loneliness is a feeling of separation, clearly.
Disconnect?
Yes. And so we all want to feel connected. And one way we can feel connected right now is to be that authentic and recognise, just like me, you feel lonely.
Oh, just like me.
Yeah. Just like me, you suffer from, you know, anxiety, you know,
fear,
doubt, all of these things.
Overwhelm.
Yeah, just like me, you want to be accepted.
Yeah.
Just like me, you want to feel like you belong. Just like me, we're the same, Mary. We are.
Yes, we certainly are, even though we
you
have
glazed
such
over
different...
there for
I
a
know,
moment.
She took me away to a just like me experience.
And I think that is the connection, you know, if we all just get real for one moment and recognise we're all the same, and anybody that says they're not is full of shit, right?
I think we'll take a little break, Marianne.
Okay, I'm getting quite... Welcome back. So in the break we've decided right now it's time to really up the ante and really come to bridging the gap between loneliness and all oneness. And what do we do, Mary, to get ourselves into that awareness, that self-awareness before we reach for relief, what we're actually experiencing?
Yes, so how do we recognise when we are on the edge of feeling lonely or... Yeah, so lonely. When we're feeling lonely, how do we recognise that that is what we're about to tip ourselves into?
Yeah, well, it's all about self-awareness, and that's why I study emotional intelligence, because I think the lack of emotional intelligence, which is apparently 98% of the planet, no one knows how to manage emotion. We weren't, you know, brought up with super aware parents. We were in the survival era, you know.
Okay, so when we talk about how we manage emotion, what emotions are we talking about?
We're talking about the stuff we don't feel comfortable feeling.
So we're talking about the love, or we're talking about the fear?
We're talking about, well, why are you lonely?
Right. Why are we lonely?
Yeah. So that's what we're really asking. And if loneliness is about separation and disconnection,
Yes.
and fear, and that comes from a fear of like people isolate themselves. I feel really comfortable being in my skin and my space because I've got a lot of practice at it.
Okay, and sometimes I feel lonely if I think about family and friends that are a long way away, over distance, or I haven't got someone to automatically speak to around me, or I'm missing out on something if I feel that other people are doing things that I'm not involved with.
Yeah, but a lot of people can feel lonely because they have a fear of rejection.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of people isolate themselves. It's the biggest thing, Mary. Because you come from that family nesty thing, you don't understand my side of the fence where there's so many people at our age that are single.
Yes.
Dating sites are full. And there's a lot of fear of rejection. I won't be accepted. So people just don't get involved sometimes and don't go out.
Okay.
And this leads to serious depression.
Right, so they're physically and literally cutting themselves off and hiding away?
Yeah, low self-esteem, because this all comes around emotional intelligence, right? So what emotions are we not comfortable with? Well, it's all the stuff that's below the line.
Fear of rejection, you just mentioned, must be huge.
Yeah, absolutely huge. And competition, we would ideally like the man our age to want the woman our age, but there's just so many options. There's internet, it's just crazy out there. So I think that there's been a social disconnect.
Yes.
That has affected us a great deal. And so the solution, Mary.
The solution, Marianne.
The solution is clearly just start focusing on a practice that is the opposite of what is giving you grief.
Oh, I like that a lot.
So I said to someone the other day, because journaling is a really big part of my practice, and it's, the research behind it's phenomenal, how it can change people's lives. And you only have to journal for 2 minutes a day. So I said to this lady, so imagine journaling on, if I wasn't lonely today, what would my life look like?
Okay, so let me step you through that a little bit deeper, Marianne, just a little bit slower for our audience. Not that they're slow, but I just want people to get what you're saying here. They're journaling for 2 minutes a day on
any prompt. So I have a 28-day challenge going on at the moment on LinkedIn and Facebook. It's really great how many people are getting involved. So if we practice self-inquiry, self-inquiry through acts like journaling and so forth, you have to forgive us, a big truck's about to go past behind us. If we practice these sort of things, what we're actually doing is connecting within. And by connecting within, we're actually getting to know the real self.
Right, so we'll bring our hopes and fears and dreams onto the paper.
Yeah, which will get out of the brain, which will give us free flow, which will make us feel better. It might make us feel worse. But what we're actually doing is connecting to it, not avoiding it anymore. And you can't change what you don't accept, recognise or own.
You can't change what you don't accept, recognise or own.
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I know, and that just comes out of my mouth like it's, I don't know where it comes from half the time.
You're full of creative inspiration.
I am. But the point is I want to offer people, I get it, you get it. We know what loneliness feels like, and it's debilitating.
Oh, it's painful.
I know what it feels like to have self-worth issues, I came from a family of chronic violence, so my self-esteem was the size of a pea for years. So this is why it's become my life work. And I know what it feels like to suffer from this painful disconnection of, well, I can't put myself out there because I'm going to be rejected anyway, because that's how I'm programmed, you know. And I know you think I'm the best looking woman out there.
You are beautiful.
Thank you. But even people that are told they're good looking can still feel ugly or can still feel unattractive. So it doesn't matter what people say, it's actually how you feel.
Right.
So the practice, self-inquiry practices, meditation, mindfulness, anything you can do to help yourself.
Increase your awareness of what you're about to experience, of what triggers your loneliness and what fears and doubts you might have.
Yes, what does your emotional bank look like? What is your belief system? What are your values? Who the hell are you?
We've covered a lot of territory right there, Marianne.
I know, but it's these sort of things that people, if they want to get out of the rut, you know, like you were saying on the other podcast how you met a lady in palliative care who said the biggest question people ask themselves in the last 3 weeks of their life is, you know,
what does my life mean? What is the purpose of my life?
well, did it matter?
And what did it matter? Yes.
Did it matter? And it's like, so why spend all of our lives in fear and resistance and loneliness and depression and separation and negativity, pretending we're all good, and then going home and drinking a bottle of wine a night? I used to do that. I went through a whole stage of it. And now I go home and meditate. You know, like, and boy, talk about feel connected, talk about feel good. And, you know, there's all sorts of neuroscience to prove that meditation, just 10 minutes a day for 6 weeks, will completely change the brain waves, completely thicken the resilience part of your brain, Mary.
That is good advice for people, Marianne.
It is. So we're going to take another quick break and be back in one moment. And we're going to wrap this up and offer you some juicy stuff. And Mary, just in light of that, I just wanted to add that I think that, you know, it's really valuable that you're an empty nester now, because there must be hundreds and thousands of women out there just like
We had a good little chat in the break, and there was a couple of things that popped up for me in the stuff that
I know, I'm getting really hot in the studio and I'm getting hungry.
Oh, hungry Marianne. It's not a good thing. So Marianne, one of the things you said during that last piece was a beautiful question. What if I wasn't lonely today, what would my life look like?
Yeah, what would I do differently? So, you know, I always say to people when I'm coaching them, give me your intention of being coached, because I'm not going to coach anybody that doesn't have an intention they don't want to improve their life somehow. Otherwise, I'm just a sounding board for them to spew out all their unhappiness.
Right, I guess it's the same thing for this podcast. We want to work with people and send out the message to people. You can change what you're experiencing.
Correct. So I know that I can get on any stage, and going through the violence and the my childhood story, that I can stand there and hold the space for anybody to know, if I can get through what I got through, you can get through what you're getting through. I can promise you that. Unless you've killed someone. I mean, I've thought about it.
Right.
I do have a secret gun, but in my imagination, it's just a bit of a teen joke. But the point of the matter is, Mary, all you have to do is change something.
Right. And one way to do that is by journaling, and then answering as a prompt for journaling.
Yeah, but you've got to do consistency. So it's about consistency every single day.
Right.
Every single day.
Making one little change?
2 minutes a day of journaling, either when you wake up or go to bed. When do you feel the worst? Okay? Deep breathing, just 10 deep breaths to get you on that journey. And try guided meditations. There's hundreds on YouTube. A lot of people say, well, I can't get there, I can't meditate. It took me years to do solo meditation. Okay. Right? Now I don't like listening to guided, because I just love getting right in there and you know, having a good look around.
So what you're saying is the solution is to practice the opposite of what's causing you grief.
Correct. Go and do yoga. Your body, you have to have a coach or an exercise person or something to get the body moving, because as you know, neuroscience and everything proves, we don't actually hold all this stuff in the brain. The brain's just a mechanic. We hold all our feelings in our body, Mary.
Yes. Well, running's always been the meditation for me.
Yeah, exactly. So you get that adrenaline going, you know, you feel your freedom, but running or exercise, yoga, even walking, to do the left-right brain, right? So we're walking. The left hemisphere of the brain, actually, which I've just learned in my recent studies, is actually where you hold all the positive stuff. Did you know, Mary?
No, I had no idea about
and
that.
the right hemisphere is the negative stuff. So you've got to get this juice moving in the blood, in the brain, in your legs, in the body. And I remember doing the Path of Love retreat last year, and I had intellectualized every part of my belief system, every part of my past. I thought I'd dealt with it all until I did the Path of Love, right? And they do loads of body work. And I felt body trauma for the first time in my life. And once I worked through that, my God, what a relief. You know, and I've done 2 decades of studying the science of the mind.
You haven't been lazy, that's for sure.
Correct. Well, I had a lot to work on, Mary. But the point of the matter is, you can feel abundance. So what's the opposite of loneliness, Mary?
Well, abundance is the opposite of loneliness.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. So you've got to be abundant in some area of your life. And what does abundance mean?
Or you can see abundance, or you can believe in abundance, or you can create abundance in your life.
Yeah.
You can get out there, and the just like me phrase that you used earlier, Marianne, that's a great way of starting to see abundance. If you're feeling negative, take a walk, see other people, and hold that thought, just like me, that person is.
Yeah, and try different things, you know. Like, I always know that I'm not for everyone, but I tell you what, my number one value is creative inspiration. Now, I didn't think I was creative at all, but I'm really creative now that I've, if you're not musical, do you want to learn an instrument? Do you want to contribute? You know, like, science has also proven, and all research has proven, the more we give, the more we contribute to a community, a society, a cause, a project, a something, the more valuable we feel, right?
That's
Now, a lot of people can't give anything if they don't have anything of themselves to give. So it's about getting out of that victim mentality, that poor me syndrome, that, you know, probably some people are listening and saying, go away, Marianne, you don't know what you're talking about right now. But I do, because I've been in that victim mentality. You've been in there. We've all been there.
We've all been there.
And we can slip into it so easily. And it's about, you know, like I have on my mirror at home, you know, I write on with a highlighter, a different, you know, verse every week. And it could look something like, whose lies do I listen to create this stuff in my life right now?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that's one from Access Consciousness. It's a great thing.
Whose lies do I listen to?
Yeah, whose lies am I listening to believe that I can't be happy? You know, where is my ego getting in the way today that's stopping me feel great? I mean, this is our life, Mary.
We've only got one, as far as we're aware.
Well,
right
I think
now.
we've got several, but, you know, that's a whole other show.
It is a whole other show.
So I just really encourage anybody who's listening. I know how it feels, you know, and Mary knows how it feels. If you want to reach out, we're both coaches, please do.
Please do.
Have the links below. But in saying that, you know, we are all here to just learn how to love. And it starts with loving ourselves and valuing ourselves and
connecting with self.
Yeah, and if you can do that and you start a practice, you go to a meditation group, you go to yoga, you go to the pub, whatever you're doing to connect with people. Just before you go to the pub, meditate for a bit, you know, like just
get to the gym and connect with somebody else. Say hi, smile.
Yeah. And
do the simple stuff.
Things will change. And practice, you know, law of attraction. Recognize everything we're saying to ourselves, we're actually attracting it on some level. As airy-fairy as that might seem, you know, science has proven it. Quantum physics has proven it.
So let's knock that loneliness on its head.
Yeah, let's knock loneliness on its head and just call it all oneness. And just, you know, change your mind, change your thinking, change your life, Mary.
Beautiful. Thanks, Marianne.
So if you enjoyed our show today, please like and share and help others. And have a beautiful day.